never imagined joining the neighborhood watch would lead me into the depths of a mystery so chilling. It would haunt my nights and disrupt the peace of our once tranquil community. My name is Alex, and I'm a resident of Oakwood Terrace, a neighborhood known for its serene streets and closely knit community. When the opportunity to join the neighborhood watch arose, I seized it, eager to contribute to the safety of my neighbors. But little did I know, this decision would plunge me into a harrowing ordeal. The first few weeks passed without incident. My responsibilities mainly involved patrolling the neighborhood at night, keeping an eye out for anything unusual. It was during one of these routine patrols that I first noticed him, the new member of our watch. His name was Eric, a man with a stern face and piercing eyes that seemed to look right through you. At first, his dedication to the watch impressed me. He was always the first to volunteer for night shifts and spent hours patrolling the streets. But soon, his behavior started to become unsettling. I'd find him lurking in shadows, watching houses for prolonged periods. "Just being thorough," he'd say, with a cold, unconvincing smile. It wasn't long before other residents began to notice. Conversations at the local coffee shop turned from casual chatter to whispers of concern. People felt watched, followed. I remember Mrs. Patterson, a sweet, elderly lady, trembling as she told me, "That new watchman, he stands outside my house at night just staring. It's unnerving, Alex." My own unease grew each day. I started paying closer attention to Eric. And that's when things took a darker turn. One night, while on patrol, I overheard him muttering to himself, a string of words that made my blood run cold. "They're all guilty, every last one of them. They need to be watched, controlled." Alarm bells rang in my head. I decided to confront him, to demand an explanation. "Eric, what's this about controlling people? What are you doing out here, really?" I asked, my voice steady despite the fear gnawing at my insides. He just stared at me, those cold eyes narrowing. "You wouldn't understand, Alex. This is bigger than us, bigger than this neighborhood. I'm doing what needs to be done." His words sent a shiver down my spine. I knew then that Eric was not just a zealous watchman. He was something far more dangerous. I needed to find out what he was up to, but how? The answer came to me in a flash of inspiration. I had to follow him, see what he was doing when he thought no one was watching. The next night, I tailed Eric, keeping to the shadows. He moved with purpose, stopping at various houses, always watching, always waiting. Then, he made his way to the outskirts of the neighborhood, to a dilapidated house I had never noticed before. Peering through a broken window, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. The walls were covered in photos of our neighbors, strings connecting them in a web of madness, newspaper clippings about crimes, missing persons, all annotated with Eric's scrawling handwriting. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized the gravity of the situation. Eric wasn't just a watchman. He was obsessed, perhaps even deranged. I needed to act, to expose him before it was too late. Rushing back, I gathered a few trusted neighbors, showing them the evidence. The revelation shook our community to its core. We decided to confront Eric, to bring an end to his reign of terror. But when we reached his house, we were met with a scene of chaos. Eric was gone, and in his place, a myriad of clues that hinted at a past marred by tragedy and wrongdoing. Newspaper clippings clippings about a series of unsolved crimes in a neighboring town, photos of Eric at different stages of his life, each one more troubled than the last. The truth was undeniable. Eric was more than just a disturbed individual. He was potentially dangerous, a man with a past that involved criminal activities. Our neighborhood watch had unknowingly welcomed a wolf in sheep's clothing. As the police took over, unraveling the threads of Eric's twisted past, our community was left to grapple with the aftermath. The streets of Oakwood Terrace, once symbols of safety and camaraderie, now echoed with the whispers of distrust and fear. I realized then that in our quest for security, we had overlooked the most important aspect: truly knowing those who we entrust with our safety. The neighborhood watch incident, as it came to be known, served as a stark reminder of the fine line between vigilance and paranoia, and the hidden dangers that lurk beneath the surface of even the most idyllic communities. In the quaint suburb of Cedar Grove, nestled between the tranquility of nature and the hum of the city, I found my sanctuary. My name is Daniel, and I've called this neighborhood home for over a decade. Known for its friendly residents and a sense of close-knit community, Cedar Grove was the epitome of peace. But that peace was shattered when a string of peculiar break-ins began, a mystery that would unravel the fabric of our trust and safety. It started subtly. The Johnsons, living a few doors down, woke up one morning to find their back door ajar. Nothing was missing, not a dime. Just the eerie feeling of an uninvited presence that had slipped in and out unnoticed. "It's like they just came to snoop around," Mrs. Johnson told me over the fence, her voice quivering with unease. The incidents grew, each one identical in its nature. Doors found unlocked, windows slightly open, yet nothing taken. The police were baffled. No fingerprints, no evidence, just the silent alarms echoing through our once serene streets. I remember pacing in my living room, muttering to myself, "What kind of burglar breaks in and steals nothing? What are they looking for?" My thoughts were a whirlpool of confusion and fear, the safety of my own home now a question mark. As the break-ins continued, suspicion seeped into Cedar Grove. Neighbors eyed each other with distrust, wondering who among us could be behind these unnerving invasions. I watched from my window as Mr. Henderson, the elderly man next door, cast suspicious glances at teenagers passing by. "It's one of them, I bet. Kids these days," he'd grumble, shaking his head. One night, as I lay in bed, a chilling thought gripped me. What if it's someone in the neighborhood? Someone who knows our routines, our habits? The idea was a seed of paranoia, growing roots in my mind. Determined to uncover the truth, I started my own investigation. I spent nights awake, peering through my curtains, looking for any sign of the intruder. Days were spent in hushed conversations with neighbors, gathering bits and pieces of information, trying to piece together this puzzle. Then, one fateful night, I saw something. A shadowy figure, moving with purpose through Mr. Henderson's yard. My heart raced as I grabbed my flashlight and hurried outside. "Hey, who's there?" I called out, my voice a mix of fear and determination. The figure froze, then darted away. I chased, fueled by adrenaline, but they were too fast, disappearing into the night. Panting, I stood in the middle of the street, the chilling realization hitting me like a wave. This is someone who knows the neighborhood well, I whispered to myself. a sense of dread washing over me. The next day, the community was abuzz with my encounter. Suspicions reached a fever pitch, accusations flying from one neighbor to another. "It's got to be someone among us," people said, fear and paranoia distorting their judgment. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, the intruder's identity a mystery that gnawed at me. Sleep became elusive, every sound a potential threat. "Who are you? What do you want?" I'd ask the silent shadows of my room, hoping for an answer that never came. As the break-ins continued, a theory began to form in my mind. What if they're searching for something specific? Something hidden in one of our houses, unknown even to us? The thought was a beacon in the darkness of uncertainty. One evening, while discussing the latest incident with Mrs. Johnson, a crucial piece of the puzzle fell into place. "You know, it's strange. Ever since these break-ins started, I've been hearing this faint humming sound in my house, like a machine running somewhere," she mentioned offhandedly. A humming sound? Could that be related? I wondered, my investigator's instinct kicking in. I offered to help her look for the source, my curiosity piqued. What we found in her attic was beyond belief. Hidden behind old boxes was a small, old safe, long forgotten by time. The humming sound emanated from it, a faint, mechanical whir. Could this be what the intruder is after? I mused aloud, both of us staring at the safe in astonishment. Mrs. Johnson couldn't recall the combination. The safe a relic from the previous homeowners. The discovery was a breakthrough. I shared it with the police and the neighborhood, a collective sense of anticipation building. The police managed to open the safe, but what we found inside was not what anyone expected. Old documents, yellowed with age, detailed plans for a series of tunnels running beneath Cedar Grove, remnants of a time when the suburb was a hub for clandestine activities. The tunnels, long sealed and forgotten, were rumored to contain valuables left behind in haste. The revelation was stunning. The break-ins were a search for these tunnels, the intruder believing the entrances to be hidden in our homes. Cedar Grove was abuzz with theories and historical intrigue, the fear slowly replaced by a sense of wonder. Eventually, the break-ins stopped, the intruder never caught, their identity remaining a mystery. But the discovery of the tunnels changed Cedar Grove. Our neighborhood was no longer just a suburban haven. It was a place with a hidden history, a story woven into the very ground beneath our feet. The silent alarms were no longer just a tale of break-ins and paranoia. They were a reminder of the mysteries that can lie hidden in plain sight, waiting for the curious and the brave to uncover them. Our community, once fractured by suspicion, found a new bond in the shared history unearthed from the depths of our neighborhood. In the pristine neighborhood of Willow Creek, there was an unspoken mystery. A house with perpetually closed blinds. My name is Jacob, and I've lived here for 5 years. But that house always gave me an uneasy feeling. The unkempt garden, the stillness, it was like a blemish in our perfect little community. I often found myself standing before my window, staring at the house and wondering aloud, what secrets are you hiding behind those blinds? The lack of knowledge was a void that the neighborhood filled with rumors and whispered tales. One summer evening, a foul, unexplainable odor began to permeate the air. It was so pungent that it invaded our tranquil lives, disturbing the peace we had taken for granted. The source was unmistakable. the house with the closed blinds. I remember muttering to myself, "This is it. We're finally going to see what's been hidden away." The police were called, and a small crowd of neighbors, myself included, gathered outside as they broke down the door. The moment the door opened, a wave of decay hit us. I clamped a hand over my mouth, feeling my stomach churn. Inside, the house was a time capsule of neglect. Layers of dust, faded photographs on the walls. But it was what was in the living room that made my blood run cold. There, amongst the decrepit furniture, lay the source of the stench, a body, decayed beyond recognition. The sight sent whispers rippling through the crowd. "Who is it? What happened here?" I watched as the police worked, a storm of questions raging in my mind. Was it murder? An accident? Why has no one noticed until now? The house, once an object of idle curiosity, had become the center of a dark mystery. As days turned into weeks, the investigation unfolded. The body was identified as Mr. Thompson, the owner of the house, who was believed to have no living relatives. The cause of death was deemed natural, but the circumstances peculiar. The neighborhood was abuzz with theories and speculation. I found myself walking past the house more often, trying to piece together the life of the man who had died alone, unnoticed. What kind of loneliness leads to this? I'd ask the silent windows of the house. Sleep eluded me as I lay in bed, the image of the lonely, decaying house haunting my thoughts. Did he have no friends? No one to check on him? The questions circled in my head, a never-ending loop of sadness and unease. One night, driven by a restless urge, I approached the house. The door was still boarded up, the blinds closed, as if trying to keep its secrets. I peered through a crack in the window, the moonlight casting eerie shadows inside. Suddenly, I saw movement. A shadow, fleeting and almost imperceptible, moved across the room. I stumbled back, my heart racing. Am I seeing things? Is the house haunted? Rumors started to spread among the neighbors about my sighting. Some dismissed it as an overactive imagination, but others whispered about the house being cursed. The once peaceful neighborhood was now gripped by a sense of paranoia and fear. I couldn't shake off the feeling that the house was calling to me, urging me to uncover its mysteries. Night after night, I found myself drawn to it, watching for any sign of the shadow. And then, one night, I saw it again. Determined to find answers, I mustered the courage to enter the house during the day. The air inside was stale, heavy with the echoes of a life long gone. As I moved through the rooms, I talked to myself to keep the fear at bay. There has to be an explanation. Ghosts aren't real. In the study, I found piles of old journals. Dusting them off, I began to read, and the story of Mr. Thompson's life unfolded. A tale of loss, isolation, and a deepening chasm of loneliness. "So this is your story," I murmured, feeling a pang of empathy. But it was the last entry that sent chills down my spine. Written weeks before his death, it spoke of a presence in the house, an unseen watcher that Mr. Thompson felt was always there, in the shadows. The words were a mirror of my own fears. I left the house with more questions than answers. The shadow remained a mystery, perhaps a manifestation of Mr. Thompson's lonely mind, or maybe something more. The house with the closed blinds stood as a monument to the unknown, a reminder of the mysteries that can hide in plain sight. Our neighborhood had lost its innocence, replaced by a wary awareness of the fragility of life and the secrets that we all may harbor. As I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't help but wonder about the lives unfolding behind each set of blinds in our neighborhood. What secrets do we all hide? I pondered, the shadows of doubt lingering in the corners of my room. The house with the closed blinds had changed us all, revealing the unseen layers of fear and curiosity that reside in the heart of every community.